are going to go over what you've all been thinking, you've all been asking for. On a clear day, you can see forever, official recap and critics review with me, Vienna. So I'm gonna be honest with you, okay? On a clear day, you can see forever is one of those films you'll have a hard time explaining to others. And it's probably one of the hardest musicals to describe, but I like a good challenge, so I'm gonna do it anyways. In order to quit smoking, eccentric Daisy Gamble, played by Barbara Streisand, seeks help from psychiatrist Dr. Mark Bruckner, an issue which, by the way, never gets resolved. So Dr. Bruckner uses hypnosis on her to get her to quit smoking. Under hypnosis, Daisy gets caught up in her memories of her past life as the confident Melinda. As Mark grows increasingly fascinated with Daisy's former persona, Melinda, romantic complications ensue between the two, or three. Anyways, if this storyline sounds interesting to you, you might want to watch more films or musicals by the writer Alan J. Lerner, and he wrote Camelot, Love Life, and many more. Anyways, back to the music. If you are a music lover and a Barbara Streisand fan, you have to watch this film. The music was incredible, but be prepared to be disappointed just a little, because how can it be a musical if you only have 5 musical numbers? So the other reason why is nothing ever resolves in the film. Anyways. Typically, when critics give a review of a musical, it's based on a concept called integration of forms, a topic I learned a lot about when I snuck into my classes at Berklee College of Music, the greatest accident of my college years. Anyways, that's another story. Musical theater critics give a review of a musical based on integration of form. The artful, tasteful melding of the various components of theater, songs and the dances and dialogue and the storyline, and how they all appear fluid and continuous as a whole in the movie or the production. So they're the elements of a great classic Broadway show. So we're going to analyze this film using those elements since it's been labeled as a musical. I'm going to go on a limb and say it should not be labeled as a musical. After reading hundreds of reviews, really just the 3 or 4 tops I could find on the internet, they had a lot to say though. I found that there's a lot of critique for this film. That's mainly around how to categorize it. It doesn't really use necessary components. The integration of form. So when you look up reviews for the film, you'll see like commercial failure in its day and confused mishmash. That review was written by Adrian Martin. We will be talking about him a lot in this video. And it also only has about 5 love songs. That's a dumpster fire. No shade, no shade, no shade. There was a lot of criticism. How it should have been categorized was based on comedy, because it is a comedy first and a musical second. And like Seinfeld, nothing in the film ever resolves. It's all very open-ended. It's open to discussion. So as a film, however, how I think it should have been characterized was based on its most critical element. It determines which genre or category that a film falls into. So in a musical, what is the critical element? It's the music. So what does that mean? The definition of a musical is when the music is used to deliver the core narrative, or the main characters actually deliver the core narrative with music. And that's a really important distinguishing factor between a musical and a movie, is the music. And that's the whole point of the musical's history, how the musical was created. In other words, if the music was removed and the story is still fully complete, it would act as more of a film score. How the musical was created was when songs were no longer in the background, but used to tell the story. And a good musical will have very powerful songs and dances to tell that story. So this film is not technically a musical in that regard, because the music isn't used to tell the core narrative of the story. It is a comedy first, and it is a musical second. And we have to clear that up before we give a fair review, because it is technically not a musical. But the best part of the film, in my opinion, is where the comedy meets with the music and the two collaboratively intertwine. What I'm talking about, of course, is probably my favorite part of the movie. We are going to go over the hypothetical love song scene. Hypothetical love songs is when people who you know are going to fall in love sing love songs, basically make-believe love songs. Anyways, I'm not serious. What they really are, hypothetical love songs, are basically when people who you know are gonna fall in love sing love songs that show they may be in love. At this point, they don't commit in the relationship. Pretty much every major musical that anyone can name, the characters who are set up for hypothetical love scenes, they fall in love like Phantom of the Opera, Les Miserables. Even in Les Miserables, they fall in love. Not in this film. The leads never sing together, not even once. You have to know the plot to understand how this is possible, so I'm gonna go over this again briefly, but I'm gonna add some very juicy details this time, because in this case, Daisy is singing about her crush, who is ironically her hypnotherapist. Remember when I mentioned the songs are supposed to act as a critical element delivering the story? Well, none of the songs are about this. So if you were to listen to the music, you would have no idea what is going on here. In fact, you might think it's from a completely different movie. So, while Daisy is getting treatment for smoking, we see the detail of what really happens in each session. And the sessions are really interesting and really stretched out because Daisy never quits smoking. However, she does fall in love with Mark, who is her crush. How does this work? It doesn't work. That's the answer. She just says, yeah, no, therapy didn't work, but let's keep trying. And she keeps throwing up to therapy every single time as another person, whose name is Melinda. Seduced, Mark decides to keep exploring this persona, Melinda. But because Daisy is psychic, she finds out that he is in love with Melinda. It's probably the funniest thing I've seen in a while. There's this amazing hypothetical love song, and it's called Go to Sleep, and it's sung by beautiful Barbra Streisand, which I need to briefly mention. Barbra playing these two different roles of Melinda and Daisy absolutely brilliantly. And she also plays her moral conscience in this scene, which is completely different as well. She has her own sense of style, her own accent. So there's this amazing hypothetical love song as she is describing this sort of thing. Anyway, it's complicated. I'll get back into it. Basically, Mark is in love with Melinda. Daisy is in love with Mark. But Melinda is in love with Robert, who was her past husband. And that leaves Warren, Daisy's fiance, who is in love with Daisy, but not really. It's more just like an arrangement for money between both of them. So I think the best way to give this film a fair and final review, or this comedy quasi-musical, is to rate the gorgeous titles or the songs from the melodic score individually. So we'll go back to the very beginning. A very comedic opening scene, something you probably won't see in any other film ever. And the first scene opens up with the song, Hurry, It's Lovely Up Here, and it's my favorite song. So we're going to go on about it a while, kind of like recapping the other song, Go to Sleep. But if you were thinking about how a movie would start, it definitely wouldn't be like this. And as the story sets its opening scene, the opening number begins with Barbra singing, and plants begin budding in their flower pots. And as she sings, we see her touching the flowers. She carries them to a place outside, directly under the sun. But alas, the scene cannot escape the hatred of the world's most worst musical critic in all of time. Once again, Adrian Martin, the critic from earlier, said the song Hurry, It's Lovely Up Here is in itself an odd and internally compromised spectacle. Can you believe it? I wouldn't say that it's internally compromised, or as the words of Adrian Martin put it, I would say the song Hurry, It's Lovely Up Here is itself an odd and yet an undeniably, astonishingly brilliant spectacle. Even Adrian had to admit, which he did shortly after what he said, the magical effect of the very first scene. And this is where we have to put our cinematography glasses on. After a myriad of flowers bloom all around Daisy, there is a shot of Barbra Streisand running for 70 seconds in what appears to be the Palace of Versailles or the Boboli Gardens in Italy. And it is a scene that Bernardo Bertolucci would define as the classical art of mise-en-scène filming. And it beautifully showcases the star of the film, Barbra Streisand, because that's what the music that's playing in the background also describes. The lyrics in the song are about Daisy Gamble becoming the woman she knows she is. It is scenes like this that are truly a landmark in film for great musicals. I believe this scene and When You Know There's Someone Loving You are the best musical scenes in the entire movie. This one